Dagdy Agus Fáilte. Hi, hello, and welcome. It's John O'Sullivan from the Irish Pagan School, and we're coming down to it. We're like 2-3 days away from the end of this 90-day challenge here in YouTube. At the Irish Pagan School, start of the year, Laura and myself set this agreement that we're going to kind of challenge ourselves to turn up and do every single day that one of us, one or the other, would be in YouTube. And it's been great, and it's been challenge and it's been an experience, and it has actually shown me that I was more capable than I thought I was. But it's also been great to connect with the community, all of the people who have subscribed and hit the note comments there to kind of engage with us, to ask questions, and even just to give feedback, or even just to let us know how the topics are actually engaging. And so we've been delighted to do that, and we're very, very grateful to anyone and all of you who have kind of engaged here. Don't worry though, there is still going to be some content in the YouTube. It's not going away entirely. There's going to be a weekly video from Laura and a weekly video from me, and we'll also be doing an additional video over in the Irish Pagan School Patreon. But that is only one small fractional aspect of the content that we create. We have the Irish Pagan School running for years now, 5 years? Quick maths, yes, 5 years officially, and we have monthly classes there. At the end of every month, there's like a teaching from a native Irish teacher. Also mid-month, there's also another class mid-month. We have annual courses that run exploring different deities, deity practices, the meditation journeying work that we do in the school. Ongoing at the moment, we have Shane Broderick doing a folklore course, 5-week course. So it's only a small amount of what we do. So a lot of people may only engage in certain ways, but if you are one of those people who is like, gosh, I could do it more of this, or I love a bit more of this, or I'd like to go deeper with this, do make sure you're on the mailing list. Go in there and kind of sign up, because there's always notifications coming out. There's always kind of resources of content that we're trying to provide to the community, as well as connecting people through in our social media spaces to community as well. So we're very grateful that all of this has actually carried on. And apologies, that is my territorial Jack Russell kind of have himself a conversation at the back. He's 16 years old and his name is Russell. To kind of preempt that in the comments, he is Russell O'Sullivan and he is 16 years of age. So he's now fella. But yeah, this has been a great experience. It really, really has. And it has allowed me to kind of explore a number of different topics and to kind of share my perspectives on things. And one thing I always do talk about in all of the videos is that perspective is a gift. When someone kind of invests the time, the emotion, the energy, the offering to show you their world through their experience or their thoughts on a particular topic through their own perspective, it's like opening a window into a reality that you probably wouldn't be able to access yourself. I have grown a heck of a lot through being open to that process. For example, when a female presenting person shares their perspective of an interaction or a joke or a TV show, or a movie, when a trans person or a gay person expresses their perspectives on things, when a person of a different ethnicity or a different color expresses culture expresses their perspectives on things, it is so enriching and it's so fascinating to be able to kind of grow through those different experiences, because I'm a middle-aged heterosexual cis het white guy in Ireland. I would never know what it's like to grow up in America. It's what it's like to grow up in China. I would never know what it's like to grow up in anywhere else in the world other than here, because I haven't done it. So when we do have those compassionate kind of connections, when we're able to kind of invest that little bit of open awareness and energy towards the bonds of friendship or of race and beyond everything, because we're all just humans. We are all just humans. We are the one species on this planet. Though we may speak different languages, though we may come from different cultures or genders or anything like that at all, or spectrums, we're all just different expressions of humanity. And so being able to kind of enrich ourselves by that sharing and trying to not be defensive and try not to be biased or try not to be blinded by our privileges and certain things. And it's difficult. This is kind of a bit of a rant, but it's very, very hard for a Western person to not consider everything from a Western-centric point of view. And that just means that it takes a lot of work, takes a lot of effort to consider stuff outside of your own perspective, outside of your own conditioning, outside of your own local area. And it's a huge amount of effort, but the rewards really are far and away greater than the amount of energy you need to put into those interactions, in my personal experience. But it is a matter of doing it safely. It is a matter of doing it respectfully and conscientiously. Because there are things in other cultures and there are things in other kind of nationalities and stuff that, you know, I should not, in no way, I'm not entitled to engage with or connect with or to know. It might be a closed spiritual practice. It might be particular forms of spiritual expression. It might be like, you know, localized deity manifestations or animist manifestations in landscape. There's a lot of different things that, you know, I should not presume that I should be able to engage with, but being able to kind of take it from the point of being open to whatever comes and open to that connections is always very healthy. And in, again, my opinion. So I've mentioned kind of the energetic investment there. You know, it takes a lot of energy to invest in our own personal growth. It takes a lot of energy to, you know, invest in deprogramming ourselves from our biases, our privileges, our upbringing. It takes a lot of energy. And I've done kind of talks and videos about personal, like spiritual sensitivity, sensibility, and personal sovereignty through the channel. You can go back and find them there. But all of that also takes energy. You know, it takes that investment of time, but that is also an expression of energy. And so it is important to kind of take that one step back and say, what is it that energizes you? Where does the energy come from? According to rules and laws of science, energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It can just change forms and change states. So these are some of the baseline laws of physics, laws of, like, you know, again, I'm a long while away from being in the classroom, scientific classrooms. But that's one thing that I've always kind of stuck with me, you know, that the energy changes state. So if you kind of, I don't know, you rub friction energy, you rub a table, you rub a balloon, something like that at all. Those experiments you did, or maybe possibly did when you were a kid, you know, you're generating energy through your friction, and then you hold it near your hair, and the static energy, the energy that you put into it through the action of the rubbing and the transference of the friction leads to a static manifestation. Your hair kind of stands up on end. Or, like, you know, you rub something enough and it begins to get hot. You've changed, you know, kinetic energy, which is the energy of motion, into thermal energy, which is the energy of heat. But no energy, like, is kind of completely pulled out of nowhere there. You know, it is, you know, the energy of fuel that you have to, like, you consume fuel, i.e. food and stuff, and then that is changed through a biochemical process within your body to generate electricity through your muscles, which you then use to rub the thing, which then becomes thermal energy. So it's all this cycle of energy. It's all this cycle of flow. Even the food that we eat is grown on our land, or is, you know, it itself consumes, you know, of the land. But the energy of the plants that are consumed, or the creatures that are grown, are, you know, made because of the solar energy, because of the light energy that, you know, causes photosynthesis and causes the grass to grow, which means the sheep can eat the grass, which means that, you know, all of the processes go through. Or I am losing the run of myself, but what I'm trying to express here is that there is a vast and well-documented cycle of energy, and we ourselves are an expression of energy, you know. So when you take that along a spiritual step, though, you're then into the existence of self, or an energetic existence of self, as opposed to just a physical existence of self. And that's where we're getting into concepts of metaphysics, concepts of like higher planers, like I have far too many thoughts on this to be able to collate evenly or easily into this. But there are many people, myself included, who believe that we are a physical form that is embodied by an energetic presence. And so when we talk in the Irish kind of tradition of the transmigration of spirit, it is that energetic manifestation that is coming again or changing and shifting between physical forms. When one physical form can no longer sustain or support the energy, that energy isn't destroyed, because again, the basic principles that we accept as theory from science is that the energy is not destroyed, it just changes states. So the energy itself, though, goes through ups and downs. All energy moves in a wave, it moves in a frequency. That's how we measure sound waves. That's how we measure light. It's all measured in a wave. You know, gravity can now be measured in wave. We know there's gravitational waves that move through space. So we ourselves have points of high energy and points of low energy. And sometimes those are connected with celestial kind of occurrences. I'm surely, hands up, not the only person who seems to be completely energized by the full moon and has mad kind of full moon dreams, you know? But then the same thing's completely energized by a dark moon, you know, the gravitational pull on our planet from that near celestial neighbor. The sun as well. If I am I'm a Leo by the classic astrological kind of formats. So the sun is the celestial body most linked with that zodiac star sign. And I have actually found that, you know, if John does not get enough vitamin D or direct sunshine, which is hard to come by in Ireland, I'm not going to kid you, it impacts on my mood. It impacts on my energetic state. So being able to have the self-awareness of the sensitivity so that I can act sensibly around when I can use my energy, when I can invest my energy, and what I need to do to restore my energy, forms another aspect of that growth as a spiritual person, that growth as a spiritual or energetic entity. And that is something that, you know, isn't taught unless you really go into deeper kind of expressions of spiritual relationships or spiritual kind of practices. You know, even then, sometimes it's not articulated very well. In my experience, there are maybe other places where it is articulated very well, and I just am not exposed to that. So, you know, I'm not speaking in a blanket term here. I am speaking from my experience and my opinion. But it is important to know for ourselves, what is it that gives us energy? What is it that restores us? And what is it that takes our energy? Because sometimes, depending on, okay, I would refer to myself as an empathic person, in that I walk into a room, if the vibe is high, it will just energize. If the vibe is low, it will kind of just diminish. Or in my case, I will do everything I can to shift and change the vibe for other people so that they can move into a better kind of experience or a better kind of emotional or energetic well-being. But that then is a cost. And so if I'm not conscious of that cost, if not conscious of that energetic shift from a high state to a low state, then I'm not doing justice by myself from a point of view of energetic sensibility. So long ramble around, long kind of talk through this. I hope it's making sense, but it's important to have that awareness so that when we do interact with other people who have their own spiritual highs and lows, energetic kind of frequencies, that we're able to connect or to share space in a sympathetic way, as opposed to a parasitic way, or even in an empathetic way. You know, sometimes it's not right that I should take on board other people's emotional circumstances or their negative energy states. You know, sometimes that's something that they need to process and work through themselves to grow as a spiritual person along their path, you know. And then other times there are people who, oh, that person's in a very high energetic state. They're really great to be around. They're always full of life. They're always full of happiness. I want to be near that. I want to have that. I want to kind of take from that, be it consciously or a lot of cases unconsciously or subconsciously. People just want to be around that because they feel energized by that. And that can in negative circumstances become a parasitic exchange, where one person is just taking of the other person's energetic resonance without some form of sympathetic sharing or bond that allows for a harmony of resonance, if that makes sense. But if we don't take the time to broaden our perspectives, broaden our awareness of self, and then also be diligent about those personal boundaries, that personal sovereignty element, then we may not realize where our energies are going. What is it that's taking energy away from us? And what is it that's giving energy to us? Because the only way that we as growing spiritual people can continue is by finding that balance. I always kind of keep on coming back to that. And all of my experiences with the Dagda, my deity I work for, is to drive me towards this balance. Now, balance isn't a state of null. It's a state of equilibrium. It's a state where, the energy that I'm getting in is equivalent to the energy that is going out from me. So I'm able to maintain and I'm able to do more, as opposed to giving all of the energy I have and then slumping into a recharge point where I can do absolutely nothing until my energy restores back up, either through hearty meals or a run around in the sunshine. So there's a lot to be said around awareness on that point, which is why perspective is crucially important. If we're not in a place where we can be open to those conversations, can be open to those sharings and those perspectives, then we can be blindsided when, we enforce personal boundaries from the point of view of that personal sovereignty. We're like, actually, no, these are my hard boundaries. This is actually what I need to do for myself, for my growth, for my continuance as a growing, maturing spiritual person or human person, or my education. The moment you begin to enforce your personal boundaries, which are healthy to do so, it does shift your energetic connection to others around you. And you may find that some people are like, oh, well, you're no fun anymore. I don't want to be around you anymore because you used to be so much fun to be around, but now you're not, Or other people might be like, well, I used to be very much concerned about you or worried about you, but now I don't have to worry about you because you seem so steady and you seem so secure. And so those are the other sides of those spectrums. People who have been investing in you from an energetic standpoint, either through emotion or care or relationships, get a bit of a relief because you have to find your boundaries, you have to find your borders, and you're more energetically stable within yourself, which means they don't need to invest that in you anymore, whether they were doing it consciously or unconsciously. But the other side of it is those people who are taking energy from you, who were kind of gaining some form of energetic exchange, joy, happiness, experience from you, who are no longer getting that same level of connected fix, or in some way. I don't want to say fix is probably a bad word to use it. Although some people have addictive personalities and they can find that, people are their addiction, or a particular type of people are their addiction. Different talk for a different day. But when you enforce your boundaries, suddenly you're no longer available to them as an energetic source, which means you're no longer fun. You used to be great to be around, and now it's all, and that then shifts and changes the relationship around you. So what I'm really trying to say here is that the only way that we ourselves can sustain ourselves, and I am speaking from experience here myself, because there was many people who I was pumping energy towards because they were vulnerable, or they were in what I perceived to be a state where they needed me to step in for them. Whereas I was overstepping. We didn't have the conversation. We didn't kind of open the perspective and the dialogue. And in ways, I violated rules of energetic consent because I was just deciding their energetic state for them through my empathetic ability to just generate a lot of kind of good times and vibes and whatever else. But that meant that when John wasn't around, they were on an energy slump because they had no way to self-regulate. Other times, then, it's, again, we only have so much energy, and it changes states out of us, and we go through the ups and downs, the resonance, the peaks and troughs of our energy flow. And I was living in a high state and then crashing into low state. There was no equilibrium, or there was no control around my energetic awareness of self, which meant that I was negatively impacting people. One of the most shocking experiences I actually had, I was working in a call center at the time, and I'm a friendly guy. I walk in, say hi to lots of people. Like I make time to be around other people, to acknowledge them and all the rest of it. But one day I was not feeling great. I was in a bad mood in my own headspace. And I walked into the office floor and I walked directly over my desk. I didn't acknowledge anyone. I walked over and I just sat down. I signed in and I got to work. And I was just thrown into the work because that's what I thought I needed. And it was an hour or more later when eventually one person who I considered a friend leaned around the table and he's like, "Are you all right?" And I kind of snapped at him. I was like, "Why would I not be all right?" And he's like, "Dude, from the moment you walked in, this entire place has been dead quiet. And like, I don't know if you're aware of the impact you have on the people around you." And of course, that made it worse because I was like, can I not have a bad day without it negatively impacting everyone else around me? But essentially, it made me realize that because I was not regulating my own energetic circumstance, I was kind of pushing negativity, or the resonance of my own emotional state, my own mental well-being, was impacting other people because it was at such a dissonance from their regular experience. The regular experience was John would come in, banter, chats, would try and do what he could for people. This was such a dissonance that it actually caused a cognitive break for a few people who didn't know what they could do in regards to conversing with John. And then I realized what the impact I was having. Regardless of my intent, I was actually having a negative impact. So I took myself away, went outside, got a breath of fresh air, put myself in the best sunbeam I could find at the point. And then when I came back in, I apologized to him and I told him I was very grateful for the awareness, and I had to consciously shift my awareness around my energetic resonance. Now, that is a story I'm telling from my own experience. I'm not saying it out of, oh, well, I negatively impacted an entire room of people. That's not the purpose of the story. If you think that's the purpose of the story, then I'm slipping an ego sense in here. You're missing the point, because the point actually is, we don't know if we're not conscious and aware of ourselves and how we might be impacting on other people unconsciously. And I have found that the more people who invest in their spiritual growth, invest in, their relationships with deity, invest in their relationships with themselves, define themselves through healthy kind of spiritual practices, invariably increase their energetic resonance. They are capable of a lot more energy work, especially if you're engaged in a ritual practice or some form of your spirituality involves offerings or ritual or invocation or evocation, as I've talked about in another video as well. It's like going to the gym. The first time you go, you can only lift the 5-pounders. Then as over time, the 5-pounders become easy. So you have to move up to the 10-pounders. And then after a while, the 10-pounders are easy. You go up to the 15s and you begin that progress. But what you're actually doing is you're getting better at doing more. And the same can be said for energetic work as well. And so if you're not then equally conscious of the health and safety benefits, because, rocking in to a gym and then without warm-ups, without kind of like support structures, without a spot partner, trying to lift the 250 kgs, you're going to do yourself a harm. The same can happen from an energetic point of view as well if you're not focused and aware of all of that, which is why, moral of the story, knowing yourself through the processes that I've talked about before, knowing what gives you energy, knowing what takes energy from you, means that you can build a practice of conscientious awareness of your energetic state, which means that you're much more sustainable as a person for yourself. And then for those around you, if you are in a position of community leadership or pastoral or sacerdotal care from a priest work point of view, if you're not looking after yourself in that energetic way, then you will find that you become no use to other people around you pretty quickly. And that is the concern. And that is something I've seen where people do burn out. Like they're no longer able to deal with their energetic connections. They're not able to enhance themselves because they are not investing in their energy state as they go through life. So that is my talk today. A bit of a ramble rant. I hope you have enjoyed it. I hope there's been something in here that is of use to you. And again, thank you very, very much for being with us on this journey. And I wish you all of the best. Until next time, take care of yourself, look after yourself, and slán. Goodbye.